In this video, we will review multiplying and dividing fractions. We're going to start by multiplying fractions. I've got three simple steps for you. You multiply the numerators, then you multiply the denominators, and of course you always simplify your answer if possible. So we're going to start right off with our first example. We're going to multiply 3/5 times 2/7. So we just multiply across. 3 times 2 is 6 over 5 times 7 is 35. 6 and 35 do not have any common factors, so our fraction is completely simplified. 6/35. Now, it is possible to avoid having to simplify fractions as the last step. In many situations, we can simplify by a factor of the numerator and the denominator. So here I have the fraction 3/5 times 5/7. And I also wrote it a different way just because you may see the multiplication dot or you just may see the terms in parentheses sitting next to each other, which you know means multiplication. So in this problem, I can actually simplify before I multiply because I have a 5 in the numerator and I have a 5 in the denominator, and I know 5 goes into 5 one time. So these actually cancel out or just turn to ones, which really doesn't change anything. And 3 times 1 is 3 over 1 times 7 is 7. So by simplifying before you multiply, you save yourself some time because you're not dealing with quite as big of numbers you might have been dealing with before. So final answer, 3/7. Let's try another. Here we have 15 over 8 times 10 over 27. Now I can certainly simplify before I multiply. So I'm going to actually cross simplify, if you will. Let's look at the 15 and the 27 first. 15 and 27, I know 3 goes into those. 3 goes into 15 5 times, and 3 goes into 27 9 times. Then I see that I have 8 and 10, and those have a common factor, so we can go ahead and simplify that as well because 2 goes into 10 5 times, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. So by simplifying at the get-go, the numbers are smaller and easier to work with. When we multiply across, 5 times 5 is 25 over 4 times 9 is 36. So we've got 25 over 36. When you're dividing fractions, we're actually going to change it to a multiplication problem. You're going to keep the first fraction, you're going to change division to multiplication, and you're going to flip the second fraction. So what you're doing is you're multiplying by the reciprocal. We're multiplying by the reciprocal, which means flip the fraction over. So let's look at one of those. Here we have 2/5 divided by 3/7. All right, so we keep the first fraction, 2/5. We change division to multiplication, and we flip the second fraction, 7 over 3. Then we just follow the same rules that we followed in the previous examples for multiplying fractions. I don't see any cross simplifying I can do, so I'm just going to multiply 2 times 7 is 14 over 5 times 3 is 15. 14 and 15, they don't have any common factors, so we know this is in simplest form. Another way you might see division of fractions is this example, which looks a little confusing because you've got multiple fraction bars. So we actually call this a complex fraction because we have multiple levels of fraction. But we're still dividing. This is our division bar right here. We've got 5 over 14 divided by 2 over 7. So these are the same problems written two different ways. And we keep the first fraction, 5 over 14. We change division to multiplication, and we multiply by the reciprocal, 7 over 2. Then I notice, well, I've got a 7 in the numerator and I've got a 14 in the denominator, so I can go ahead and simplify before I multiply. 7 goes into 7 one time, and 7 goes into 14 2 times. Multiply across, 5 times 1 is 5, over 2 times 2 is 4. And we'll just leave that improper 5/4. Okay. Let's look at one last example. We've got 1/6 divided by 24/15. Now you might be tempted to simplify, but you need to change it to a multiplication problem before you simplify. So let's go ahead, we'll keep 1/6, keep the first fraction. We change division to multiplication, and we flip the second fraction. So this becomes 15 over 24. Now I can compare my numerators with my denominators and see if they have any common factors. And I see that 15 and 6 have a common factor of 3. I know that 3 goes into 15 5 times, and 3 goes into 6 2 times. Then we can multiply. 1 times 5 is 5, over 2 times 24 is 48. So, multiplying and dividing fractions, you don't have to have a common denominator. You simply multiply the numerators and denominators. And if it's a division problem, you multiply by the reciprocal.